Hello and welcome to Radio Waves, a production of Red Apples Media. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and we're broadcasting out of WLBE, my 790 AM out of Leesburg, Florida. Today, we have a very special guest, Lake County Sheriff Peyton Grinnell. So today I'd like to talk about his vision for the future, part of his transition, and any changes that the department may have. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I look forward to the show.
Thank you for coming. So, Sheriff, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, a little bit about me. Let's see, I'm 48. I was born in Eustis, and I'm a Yellow Jacket, graduated from Leesburg High School in 1986, and just grew up in this community until I left to join the Marine Corps, and was fortunate to get hired at the Sheriff's Office in 1994, and here we are today.
So you've been in the law enforcement for quite a while then.
Yeah, and it's just been a great journey. You know, the employees at the agency there really love what they do and have a true passion to serve, and I'm just honored that I get to remain a part of that team. Let
me say, congratulations. I know that you're filling the shoes of a great sheriff.
Right.
How was that transition?
Well, you know, I was fortunate in that the transition of office was seamless. You know, there's 25 newly elected sheriffs in this state, and when I was at the new Sheriff's Institute in Tallahassee, I heard some of the horror stories where the incumbent sheriff wouldn't even let the new sheriff in office until January the 3rd. And, you know, when stuff like that happens, basically the employees suffer, your citizens suffer. And I had the good fortune for the last 10 years of working directly under Sheriff Gary Borders as his chief deputy. The man did a fantastic job in this county providing quality law enforcement services to our citizens. And I was fortunate to not only have him as a boss, but as a mentor and just a great friend.
Now, you selected Jerry Craig as... Yep. Why him? I'm not saying he's not good, but you actually pulled him out of retirement.
Sure.
And what did it take? To pull me out of retirement would take a lot.
Actually, I've gotten that question a lot. I did bring him in from outside the agency. You know, I take the office of sheriff very serious. I realize, having done the job for 10 years under Sheriff Borders, what it entailed. I wanted to bring somebody in that quite honestly, would be comfortable telling the sheriff if he felt I was messing up, or maybe I wasn't doing something correctly. And I knew that Jerry Craig is that man. I've known him for over a decade, and he retired after 31 years of service in this business.
Wow.
And 29 of which was with the Marion County Sheriff's Office. He's worked in all facets of law enforcement and very well-rounded. He's community-minded, which is important to me. And I tell you, his faith is second to none. And he's a great asset to our agency, and he's a great asset to me, and I'm proud to have him on staff.
And it's clear that you are very appreciative of your staff. How large is Lake County Sheriff Department?
Yeah, we have 1,156 square miles that we patrol in this county. And, of course, the population, some of the latest numbers I looked at was over 320,000. But I'll tell you, we have over 700 of the most professional employees in the state of Florida, and they do a fantastic job. A lot of people are shocked to know that we have that many employees, but we run the county jail. It's a big operation in downtown Tavares, and the professional staff over there that works in the jail processes close to 13,000 inmates a year through those doors. They still stay very busy.
13,000?
That's correct. That's correct.
Wow.
Between the police departments and the sheriff's office processing their arrestees in and out of there. And so it's a full-service operation. And, of course, they have to provide medical and food services for the inmates. And we offer to the public to let them take a tour. It's the only time that they can get out of jail for free. But we offer to let our citizens see that operation because we want them to see that not only do we run a conservative jail, but we run the jail and not the inmates. That's just a great testament to the leadership over there.
As it should be.
Right.
I know you guys do a lot. And what I'd like to do is get our listeners and our viewers to get a better appreciation of it. what you guys do for the local community.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you that one of the things that just amazes me is the majority of these specialty units that we have at the sheriff's office. It's not the employee's full-time job. They volunteer to take on the added responsibility, whether it's the Special Weapons and Tactics Unit or SWAT team, and which is just a group of highly trained individuals that I'm just very impressed with. You know, we have the bomb team, the HDT team, we call it. These guys have federal credentials. They go up to Alabama to the federal school and learn how to deal with explosive devices, and they're always on call, and the list goes on and on. You know, everything from a mounted posse unit that's the
Really?
Yeah. We'll bring them out if we have a missing person in a rural setting, whether it's the Ocala Forest or something like that. And we have a search and rescue unit that's made up of an airboat club. And, you know, there's 1,400 named lakes in this county, and
Right.
It's a big county, but just numerous specialty units that just do a fantastic job.
And again, there's so many to
Right.
me that they're almost behind the scenes. Do you have any new initiatives that are coming up, new units or things that you like? Are you doing any restructuring for the department itself?
We have. We've done some minor restructuring. One of the things that I just put into play is a full-time DUI unit, aggressive driving unit. Way too many people are being killed on our roadways here in the state of Florida and Lake County. You know, we're seeing where where Colonel Gene Spalding of the Florida Highway Patrol was bringing back the Arrive Alive campaign. We're going to partner with the Colonel on that initiative. And, you know, the texting and driving, we try to get that information out to our citizens, to our drivers, and just let them know how dangerous that is. You see it, I see it, you know, and it's just
Every day.
You think you're only looking down for a second or two, when in reality it's 3 or 4 seconds, and that's a long time when the automobile's traveling 60, 65 miles an hour. So we just really want to target that and educate our citizens to be safer drivers.
And I heard about another initiative, the Senior Watch, and has that started? Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because that sounds,
Sure.
again,
No,
that's something
right.
that people would take for granted about what the sheriff department does.
Yeah, and that's
Something that doesn't hit the
Right.
limelight.
Right, and that's one of the reasons we encourage people to go to our website, because these programs are listed on there. It's www.lcso.org, and you know, Senior Watch is a program that's been around for a while now, to where if you're a senior and you live alone, you can sign up, and we have volunteers that call and check on you every day. And if you don't answer the phone, we're going to send somebody by your house to see why. And we have stories where we've went by the home, and just like you see on television, a senior had fallen and truly could not get up. And because of that deputy sheriff going by there, or one of our citizens on patrol volunteers going by there, we were able to get them the help that they needed. You know, that's just one of many programs that the sheriff's office offers our citizens that may not necessarily be what people would think law enforcement does.
No. And you know, how do you get that? How do you disseminate that kind of information? Because I believe that a lot of people, had they known that program was there, that initiative is out there, that they might actually protect, maybe not the individuals themselves, but say, hey, listen, my mother, my father, I'm 45 minutes away. How do I sign up for this type of stuff, or these type of programs?
Right.
And you can get all that information off your website?
Sure, we sure can.
Okay, the cybercrime unit, because nowadays, anything from stolen credit cards to stolen identities, or how big is this unit?
Right. Well, we could put another 20 or 30 detectives in there, and unfortunately stay just as busy as we are now. You know, it's identity theft and fraud in this state is it's very prevalent. You know, over the years, under Sheriff Boulder's leadership, and we would go out in the community and we would talk to our retirement communities about this to try to be proactive on the front end, because, you know, listen, we only know about the crimes that happened because the person was comfortable reporting it. A lot of that goes unreported because somebody may be embarrassed that they fell for the scam or
Right.
for the fraud. And but these criminals are good at what they do. They target a trusting generation, our seniors, and that when they believe that your word meant something and a handshake meant something.
Right.
So that's who the criminals are targeting, and we're going to make sure that we get that out on social media so they'll be prepared to handle whatever the criminal throws at them.
Oh, that's great. Well, Sheriff, we need to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll continue our conversation with Sheriff Peyton Grinnell. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and we're broadcasting out of WLBE, my 790 AM out of Leesburg, Florida. And if you're watching us on Lake Sumter Television, you're watching us on Comcast Channel 13, Spectrum 498, and Century Prism Link Channel 83. So, in our first segment, we were talking with Sheriff Grinnell about some of the initiatives and a little bit about his history. And I'd like to ask you, when you were doing your campaign trail, what was it, and you were actually talking to the public, what was their hot issues?
Well, it's a great question, and I'll tell you that I was taken back. Believe it or not, who would ever thought that, right here in Central Florida and Lake County, that one of the questions that you'd get asked the most is, if you're elected sheriff, how are you going to protect us from terrorism? And
Right.
And that question was asked a lot. And so I would explain what we do at the local level, the state level, and how we work with our federal partners to do our best to keep this county safe. And but the main message was it really comes down to the public helping us to help them, if you will. The whole "See Something, Say Something" campaign. But I wanted to assure our residents now, as your sheriff, that this is a very serious issue. We take it serious. As a matter of fact, I was at a press conference not too long ago with the governor, and he's proposed additional funding for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to hire an additional 40 or more agents to really work in the intelligence arena to make sure that they're engaged in the social media sites, things of that nature that these terrorists like to use to communicate. We have great task force that are formed right here in Lake County with our federal partners, and we get real-time information fast, right away. That's one thing that the federal government learned after 9/11, is that the local officers are going to be the ones that are out there more often than not confronting these people.
Sure.
So they wanted to get that information to us as quick as they could, and that's really improved.
And you spoke about partnership. How important is it, the relationship between local police departments and the sheriff department?
Right.
Because the sheriff covers the entire county.
Correct.
And then each city has their own police department. What kind of relationship do you have?
Yeah, we're very fortunate. You look across the state, and I can show you some counties where maybe the sheriff's office and the police department or police departments are territorial, and we're not. We have a great relationship with our police chiefs in this county. They're all professionals. They all do a fantastic job. We meet quarterly for lunch and training, and to be able to address these issues and talk about each other's concerns, get suggestions. And it's just a great relationship between the sheriff's office and the police departments, and that doesn't necessarily happen in other areas of the state. But we work hard at that.
Which is surprising. It just seems like if you don't have a solid relationship with your counterparts, it almost undermines it.
Well, we take the stand of one team, one mission, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Our children live here as well, go to school here. Our parents live here or shop here, and this is our community. And we've got one goal, and that's to maintain a great quality of life here and make sure that you're always going to have crime, unfortunately, but
Right.
we want to keep that low.
Okay. Now, if I could ask you, what role does social media have nowadays with news and information being shotgunned, across the
Sure.
country and the world? Does that help you or does it hurt you to do your job? I mean, does it, do you get tips on social media, or is it a good medium for you to find that you can get better information out there to the public?
Yeah, and I would tell you that social media is such a big deal that it's in all of the law enforcement executives training classes that you go to now. I personally think it's a great thing, and that's one of the initiatives that we've undertaken since I've come into office, is to elevate our social media platform. We want to make sure. Matter of fact, we're going to have a segment coming on not too far in the distant future here. It's going to be called "Not in the News," and
Not in the news.
yeah, we're going to talk about. We're going to highlight our men and women at the agency that go above and beyond and do things that may not necessarily get reported in the media, such as a deputy sheriff going to a call where 2 children on their birthday were abandoned by their mother, and that deputy, on his own accord, went to Publix and got him a birthday cake and bought him a couple gifts and stayed with them until they got the proper placement. I can go on and on telling you stories like that, but I want to highlight that and show the community that these men and women truly care, and I think that's the good stuff.
And it is. And I think, especially the way the climate is across the country now, people tend to forget that our men and women in law enforcement are men and women.
Right. That's
true. They're neighbors. They're family members. They're not. They don't go to law school. They don't go to the academy and be taught how to be a mean person. Or they're men and women, and they're out there doing jobs that a lot of people either can't do themselves or won't do it. So that brings me to another question. What kind of person does it take to get into law enforcement?
Well, I'll just speak from my perspective as to who I would like to hire or require these traits of the individual. First of all, you have to want to serve people. You have to be compassionate, and but at the same time, we are getting these recruits out of the academy that they want to come into the job for the excitement of carrying a badge and a gun and driving
Sure.
fast in a police
Sure.
car, and that's where myself and my leadership team we make sure that we're selecting the right ones. It's okay to want the excitement of the job, but at the end of the day, we serve people, and we do things oftentimes that may not be a law enforcement function, but when something goes wrong in a county, the citizen wants the sheriff to fix it. And,
Right.
And we may not be able to fix it, but we can definitely put that person in touch with somebody that can help them. And so I look for that. I look for that trait in that person that wants to, take it to the next step.
Have you found a reduction in people wanting to join the force?
Surprisingly, no. You would think, over the last 18 months or 2 years where you saw a small segment of our nation's population wanted to tarnish the noble profession that we have, that maybe that would have steered away some people that wanted to seek employment in law enforcement. But our academies are staying full, and which is good. It allows us to select the cream of the crop and to hire and retain the best people we can. And so we're in good shape there.
And that's good to hear, quite frankly, because if you're watching the national news, all you see are, I don't want to say all, but there's a lot of negativity, and you end up seeing the bad reports, not the officers who buy birthday cakes for children who are having a terrible day.
Right.
And it seems like there's so much, I don't want to say hatred, but animosity towards law enforcement that it might deter people from going into this profession. But I don't really see that around Lake County. I mean, again, you watch it on the national news, but you don't see too much of it here.
Actually, I will tell you that, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the residents, our citizens here in Lake County for supporting public safety, because quite honestly, they got mad during that time period. And we started getting stories of our deputies and our police officers that were going into restaurants on their lunch hour to only have the waiter or the waitress tell them that somebody anonymously bought their meal. We started seeing our citizens.
That's great.
Yeah, we started seeing our citizens just taking a second to let that deputy or that police officer know that they appreciated them being out there. I mean, imagine a society without us. I can't even imagine that. But you know,
and it would seem that a large part of the country would like that.
Right.
But again, like you said, it's not that large. It's just what makes it to the news. It's a very small segment.
Right. And I tell people, you know, all the time that there's just shy of 1 million sworn law enforcement officers in the United States of America. And you think how many citizen contacts that is on a daily basis, and how many of those citizen contacts are positive, even ones where use of force may be required. You know, but you're only going to see the ones that are portrayed in a negative light.
And that is very, very unfortunate, because it's not the reality. It's not the truth. Even growing up, I was always, police, watch out. But why? Well, because I didn't want to get pulled over for speeding. Why? Because I was speeding. So,
Right.
You know, I was in the wrong, but I was, you know, fearful of getting caught is the bottom line. And I think a lot of people tend to take that self-responsibility and turn it around to where it's like, no, I don't like cops. Why? Well, why? Oh, because, you know, they gave me a ticket. So you earned that conversation.
Yeah, well, you know, and that's one of the things that we want to do at the Sheriff's Office is number one, be transparent so our citizens can see that, you know, we're an accredited agency, and we have strong policies and procedures in place, that we know we will make a mistake on occasion. We will have that oops moment, if you will. But, you know, with 700 employees, I think our citizens understand that, but they want to they want to know that we're going to handle that correctly and swiftly. And we do. We police our own. And unfortunately, we've had to arrest our own on a couple occasions. And I tell people all the time, you know, I don't justify that behavior, not at all. Don't condone it. It's not a good thing when you have to arrest one of your own, but
No, of
it
course
needs
not.
to be done on occasion. But you know, I at the end of the day, you said it earlier in the show, we're human beings, and we really want to make sure that the public knows that we're not robots, that we truly care. We have the same issues that they do, and but I couldn't be more proud of the men and women there at the agency. They just do a great job.
And that's an interesting point as well. You have the same issues that we do.
Right.
You know, and if anybody can, I'd like our listeners to remember that. Again, they're men and women. Well, Sheriff, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much for coming on this show and sharing this information.
Thank you for having me.
At any time. Well, that's it for our show today. This has been Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin. We'll see you next time.